السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. المعاناة في كشمير هي قضية نزاع بين دولتين نوويتين مسلحتين حتى النخاع، تؤثر في السلام والأمن والاستقرار في منطقة جنوب آسيا والعالم بأسره. هي حكاية لا تنتهي لانتهاكات حقوق الإنسان والإبادة والتغيير الديمغرافي. مع رئيس آزاد جامو وكشمير ساردار مسعود خان نتحدث عن الأزمة الكشميرية من الداخل. معكم زينب صفار، تابعونا. مخاوف باكستان بشأن كشمير تنبع من الالتزام الأخلاقي للبلاد في ترجمة الحق الإنساني الأساسي للشعب الكشميري لتقرير مصيره. بالإضافة إلى ذلك، تقع كشمير في منطقة تتشارك فيها دولتان مسلحتان بالقوة النووية حتى النخاع حدودهما مع بعضهما البعض، ولذلك يتحتم من أجل الاستقرار الاستراتيجي للمنطقة أن يحل نزاع كشمير بطريقة ودية عبر القنوات الدبلوماسية بحسب المتابعين لهذه الأزمة. الكشميريون في آزاد جامو كشمير يرون أن هنالك مخاوف هندية من نتائج أي استفتاء لأبناء كشمير من أنها ستكون على الأرجح لصالح باكستان، الأمر الذي من شأنه أن يعزز الوضع الإقليمي لباكستان. كان من الممكن لأي ديمقراطية حقيقية أن تجري استفتاء حرا في كشمير منذ فترة طويلة، عوضا عن اللجوء إلى التكتيكات القمعية المتمثلة في الإبادة الجماعية وعمليات الخطف والتعذيب والاغتصاب، بينما المجتمع الدولي يغض الطرف عن ذلك الصراع اللا إنساني المستمر، وهذا بحسب أبناء المنطقة. مأساة كشمير إذا لم يتم حلها ستؤدي إلى حمام دم في جنوب آسيا، والذي يمكن أن يتحول بسهولة إلى حرب تقليدية نووية في المنطقة بحسب المراقبين. لذلك يتطلب الحل السلمي لهذه القضية أقصى قدر من الاهتمام والأولوية من العالم من أجل الحفاظ على الاستقرار الاستراتيجي الإقليمي. إذن يجب حل القضية الكشميرية عبر المفاوضات بين أصحاب المصلحة، بينما على الأمم المتحدة أن تقوم بواجبها لهذا الغرض، وفي حال عدم حدوث ذلك قد يقع اشتباك محتمل تكون له عواقب وخيمة. بعد كل تلك السنوات، ألا يعتقد السيد ساردار مسعود خان رئيس منطقة آزاد جامو وكشمير في الجزء الثاني من هذا اللقاء الخاص أن المنطقة لن تتحرر إلا بأيدي الكشميريين أنفسهم عبر المقاومة؟
Well, there are two philosophies at work here. India's approach is that they would subjugate the territory and amalgamate it with the Indian Federation through the use of state terrorism, through the use of state-sponsored violence. Whereas the people of Jammu and Kashmir believe that this problem, this dispute, must yield to our political process, that a solution would only be possible through negotiations or through the implementation of the UN Security Council resolutions, which are already there. The methodology for resolving this issue has already been determined. So this is clash of two philosophies. One philosophy believes in naked brute force and the other in diplomacy and dialogue. I think that the Kashmiris would win. Your question whether Kashmiris can win through armed resistance, Kashmiris do not have the capacity to mount a major challenge, armed resistance to the Indians. Why? There are 700,000 troops, and the entire territory of Jammu and Kashmir, or the entire territory of the Indian occupied Kashmir, has been cordoned off by India.
They are incapable, you mean? They want, but they don't have the means? What do you mean by incapable, the Kashmiris?
I didn't know.
I mean, because if this is their just right cause, I won't ever care how much is the number of the forces who are facing me? You know, because we as Arabs, we are used for the struggle in Palestine, in the occupied territories, and the Palestinians, they tried with the minimum means to face the, you know, the invincible military power in the Middle East, which is Israel.
I didn't mean that the Kashmiris are incapable. I mean, they have the will, they want to resist, they want to defend their homes, but they do not have the capacity, they do not have the resources. They are cut off from the rest of the world physically, and there's information blackout in the Indian occupied territory. But as I said, that the Kashmiris believe, all Kashmiris believe, that an armed clash between Pakistan or India, or an massive armed resistance from the Kashmiris against the 700,000 troops is not the solution. That this will not work out. Kashmiris believe in peaceful means of resolving disputes, not through state terrorism, which is being imposed on the Kashmiris by India. Now, Kashmiris definitely have the right to defend themselves. Exactly. This is their inborn, inalienable right. Yes. And nobody can deny them. But India very cleverly kills them, and whoever poses any kind of resistance projects them as terrorists, not as freedom fighters. And as I said, that in terms of arms and ammunition, equipment, the Kashmiris there do not have any resources whatsoever. India sometimes tries to give the impression that Pakistan is sending infiltrators across the line of control to create a disruption in the Indian occupied Kashmir. This is not true, because the line of control is heavily guarded, and India has erected a fence along the LOC, and it has, in fact, there are two layers of that fence. Between those two layers, there are landmines, and there's thermal imaging, and there are motion sensors, and there's electronic surveillance, and there's lighting, and therefore you can't cross, even the animals or birds cannot cross that barrier, that physical barrier. So there are no infiltrators from Pakistan going across. I think that in the 1990s, some people tried to rescue their brothers and sisters from Indian oppression. But now, I mean, the current phase, the movement is being led by the youth or veteran leaders. And the main idiom, the main vehicle of their freedom struggle is political. Because they think that politically they are very strong, and they hope that one day the international community would listen to their voice and would respect their aspirations.
Right. To second what you have just said, sir, India, according to observers, is propagating a false narrative about the struggle of the Kashmiris by equating it with terrorism. Kashmiris do not want to be a flashpoint between Pakistan and India, but a symbol of connectivity and cooperation.
Yes, absolutely. Because we know, the Kashmiris know, that India and Pakistan are nuclear armed states. If there's a clash, if there's escalation of tensions between them, turning into an armed conflict, a massive armed conflict, the consequences would be disastrous. Kashmiris, as I said, are peace-loving people. All they want is respect of their political aspirations, respect for their political aspirations. And they do not want, Kashmir, they do not want Kashmir to be a nuclear flashpoint, exactly, and as you have said, a symbol of connectivity. In fact, I can tell you that now the China-Pakistan economic corridor is passing through Gilgit-Baltistan, and Azad Kashmir is also now formally a part of the China-Pakistan economic corridor. It is our aspiration that at one point the Indian occupied Kashmir should also join this corridor, should also be part of this corridor.
This is how you tend to internationalize the cause of Kashmir, by inviting more investment and investors through the CPEC, which is the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor.
Yes, yes. India has objected to that. India has objected to the international involvement, or even China's involvement in the CPEC and the part of CPEC that passes through the Jammu and Kashmir territory.
Yes, true.
But we believe that it is good for the people of Jammu and Kashmir, it is good for Pakistan, it is good for the region, it is good not just for Pakistan and China and the people of Azad Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan, it is also good for these multiple regions that we have, which surround Pakistan. You have South Asia and East Asia and Central Asia and Southwest Asia and West Asia itself. So I think that because we are creating a connective node here for international commerce and international investment networks. So yes, you're absolutely right. We want to be a symbol of connectivity, not a symbol of discord and nuclear clash.
Exactly. Now you always, sir, call on the international community to play its due role in seeking an end to the brutalities, the violation of human rights, and the reign of terror unleashed by Indian forces. How does the Indian misconduct continue to fuel the conflict in Kashmir?
Hugely, as a matter of fact. I mean, first, I think that
and this is not covered in the media.
This is not covered in the media.
Total media gag on the issue.
Yes, but I think that India is pursuing fascist policies, colonial policies in the Indian-occupied Kashmir. This is one thing. Then they have authorized their troops, 700,000 troops, to commit murders, to rape women, to pick up young men, put them in jails and torture them with impunity. And they have empowered their soldiers with these lawless laws, like the Armed Forces Special Powers Act, like Public Safety Act, because this inculcates a culture of impunity. And all these the so-called security forces, they should be properly called the insecurity forces in the Indian-occupied Kashmir. They are immune from prosecution. They've been given immunity from prosecution. They can murder people, they can commit extrajudicial killings, and they would be rewarded. In that sense, they are mercenaries. They are rewarded for killing innocent people.
Complete impunity.
Yes. So, and there is media coverage. I'll tell you that some of the Western newspapers or television networks from time to time, in the context of India-Pakistan conflict, they do pick up news about Kashmir and in the context of human rights violations in Jammu and Kashmir. But it's not a pressing issue for the international community. They have dispatched it to the back burner. And that is a tragedy for the people of Jammu and Kashmir, because they are dying every day. Despite India's despotism and its repression, they say that we would continue our struggle. And they are not intimidated by India's use of...
They are steadfast.
They are absolutely
in their
steadfast.
Solidarity and in the way they start or stand in face of the atrocious violations against them. But recently, sir, the Senate has passed a resolution, the Pakistan Senate has passed a resolution about Kashmir. Can you tell us about this and the importance of it? Yes,
the Senate has expressed its support and solidarity with the people of Pakistan. They have also reiterated Pakistan's principal stand in regard to the right to self-determination of the Kashmiri people. They think that a just solution of the dispute must be found. When the Senate passes a resolution like that, or the National Assembly, they aggregate the wishes and aspirations of the entire nation of Pakistan, and this is what they have done. A couple of days ago, as a matter of fact, I mean this week, early this week and the past week, the people of Pakistan have been expressing their solidarity with the entrapped and brutalized people of Jammu and Kashmir, brutalized people of the Indian occupied Kashmir. After the killings in Shopian and other towns around April the 1st, there was angry reaction and denunciation from Pakistan. So the Senate's resolution is in continuation of that expression of solidarity the people of Pakistan have expressed with their brothers and sisters in Kashmir.
Right. Now, Brad Adams, who is the Asia director at the US-based NGO Human Rights Watch, he said, we're going back now to the year 2006, he said, quote, although Azad means free, the residents of Azad Kashmir are anything but free. The Pakistani authorities govern Azad Kashmir government with tight controls on basic freedoms. How accurate is such an observation, sir?
I think this is a facile and inaccurate statement. I don't know whether the gentleman had visited Azad Kashmir. If he is still active in the field of human rights, I invite him to visit Azad Kashmir. And we are free people. We move around with freedom. We make our own decisions locally in regard to governance, in regard to economic development. We do welcome the support of the government of and the state of Pakistan. But if you go to Azad Kashmir, it has the lowest crime rate in the whole of Pakistan. It has the highest educational score.
Exactly. 72%
no,
literacy.
It is
it's
85%. It is 85%.
Yes.
And we have, in fact, outstripped all other regions. I mean, that includes the entire Pakistan in the areas of enrollment and retention of students, also gender parity and learning. So we are doing
youthful.
well. And
we have lots of youngsters.
And let me tell you that in our schools and colleges and universities, the number of our female students is increasing very rapidly. We have a women's university also in Azad Kashmir, where women are studying all sorts of subjects. In medical colleges, they dominate the numbers and the results also. They outperform boys. So Azad Kashmir is not the kind of
so hopefully the women
place.
Are going to liberate the Kashmir.
I hope
hopefully,
so. I hope so. They are full of enthusiasm.
Exactly.
And now they are being equipped with knowledge and
education and knowledge.
Education,
yes.
and they are studying very difficult subjects. I mean, it's not that they are studying liberal arts or social sciences. They are also into hardcore subjects.
Usually this is the reaction of this kind of suffering. You try, to fill in more information and education in order to try and face such kind of brutal occupation and attacks. My last question for you, sir, that in 1948 the United Nations had passed a resolution granting the right to self-determination to the people of Jammu and Kashmir that is still to be implemented. Ironically, also in 1948, the Zionist entity Israel, which usurped the Palestinian lands and home, was created. Tell us about the common denominators between the suffering of the Kashmiris and the suffering of the Palestinians.
The common denominator between Palestine and Kashmir. I mean, in this part of the world, we bracket them together. We say that the people of Palestine haven't been given justice, and the people of Kashmir have been denied their right to self-determination. So these are similar situations. The other thing is the reality of occupation for both these territories. There's brutal occupation in Palestine, and there's brutal occupation in Indian occupied Kashmir. So, and both demand a right to self-determination. So this is also a common denominator. But let me tell you that there's a bit of difference. Palestine gets all the attention in the world whether it is the European Union, whether it is the United Nations. Palestine also has persona of a state because it is represented in the United Nations as an observer state, and it has the capacity to mobilize the international community through the Security Council, although the will of the Palestinians or the aspirations of the Palestinians are blocked in the Security Council. But Palestine gets all the attention. Contrasted with that, Kashmir gets little attention, although brutalities are similar. In fact, brutalities in Kashmir are more gruesome. And the other thing, I mean, going back to the similarities, the tactics of the occupiers of this are the same. The occupiers of Palestine,
Israel.
Israel.
That's why all the attention comes to the Palestinians.
Yes,
you know?
Illegal settlements, killings,
exactly.
and distorting the narrative of the Palestinians, presenting them as terrorists and militants.
Dismembering the country and the people and everything.
Yes, dividing them into small pockets. This is precisely what India is doing in Kashmir. It is starting to build some illegal settlements where it would settle the Hindu minority, also the ex-army people who have served in Kashmir. And the people, the killers, they want to give land and colonies to the killers of Kashmiris. And then they are trying to change demography of the Indian occupied Kashmir. They want to particularly target Muslims. They think that if they reduce the number of Muslims, they will resolve this issue.
So ethnically cleanse.
Ethnic cleansing.
Yes.
And this ethnic cleansing has been going on since 1947. And
right.
So these are the similarity between Palestine and Kashmir. The biggest similarity is that the Kashmir issue also came on the agenda of the United Nations in 1948, and so did the Palestine issue. And despite the passage of 70 years, both these issues have not been resolved by the United Nations. And this, in this sense, in this context,
only the people of those countries are going to resolve the issue, not the United Nations.
No, it had a role to play because it.
Of course.
I do believe that you're absolutely right that Palestine and Kashmir have become a symbol of United Nations failure, singular failure, because they have not been able to resolve both these issues, and they have been hamstrung by realpolitik and strong arm tactic by major powers.
Right.
And justice has not been upheld by either the international community at large or by the United Nations. But you are absolutely right that ultimately freedom in Palestine and in Kashmir would be won by their own people, because they have this strong resolution, strong determination that no matter what happens, no matter how long it takes, they will win freedom under all circumstances.
Inshallah, sir. Mr. Sardar Masoud Khan, President of Azad Jammu Kashmir, many thanks indeed for joining us from your offices.
Thank you so much. It has been a pleasure to talk to you.
It's our pleasure, sir. It's an honor and a pleasure to be with you and to talk about the Kashmir cause from the inside. إذا لقاء جديد في الأسبوع المقبل مع ضيف جديد وقضية جديدة ودائما من الداخل. للمزيد من التواصل بريدنا theinside@almayadeen.net وصفحتنا على الفيسبوك. من الداخل من كل فريق عمل البرنامج من كل الميادين من بيت كشمير. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.